What is going on, everyone? My name is NoPunIntended, and welcome to coverage of my Week 4 battle for the Minor Pokemon League. If you guys enjoy my Draft League content, then please leave a like or a comment on the video, because that would be nice, and I would appreciate it. Now, we're sitting in the standings at 1 and 2, and this is the halfway point of our season, so now it's time to kick things into overdrive and get a few wins. We are going to start off the sort of second half of our season by playing Tablemon, coach of the Chelseadra Pokemon Club. Tablemon is more famous in the community for his TCG content. He uploads stuff to his channel. He also has Twitch streams, and he's very chill, and I don't know, I'd say he's pretty entertaining as well. So if you're interested in the trading card game, he makes a lot of very good content for that. You should go check him out. But he's also started dabbling in Draft League, and his team definitely has a lot of very scary threats. Specifically on the especially offensive side, stuff like Charizard Y, Galvantula, X-Cloud, you always have to look out for mons with that kind of raw power to them. That being said, on the physical side, the power doesn't quite reach that level of those three mons. He does rely on setup very much on the physical side, and his team, while it does have some very good offensive threats, it lacks a bit in support, and that's a fact that I'm hoping to exploit in my preparation for this game. But speaking of preparation, let's talk about the team I brought. The first mon is going to be Politoed, and there's a very clear reason why Politoed is coming. It's my hard counter to Charizard Y once it Mega Evolves. I can reset his Sun, I can hit him with pretty powerful, super effective Scalds. If he has Sunny Day on his Zard for whatever reason, I can try to stall it out with Protect, and use Toxic to wear down his HP anyway. I can technically do that with any of his other mons too, but Zard Y is just the obvious examples. I was originally running Whirlpool in that 4th move slot, but it's actually an exclusive to the Gen 2 Virtual Console games. And my Genera was having a few issues with creating it properly, so I just switched it over to Encore. They kind of fulfill the same purpose in that they help me to wear down the opponent's team by being incredibly disruptive to them. Whirlpool prevents them from switching and gives them residual, while Encore locks them into a move and allows me to wear them down with Toxic a bit better. So, same idea really, it didn't matter too much to me what move I had on there. But I guess Whirlpool would have been a bit cooler. Regardless, I didn't click either Whirlpool or Encore in this match, so who cares. Anyway, let's move to a mon that, if you're prepping against me, you should really care about. That being Mega Swampert. The main reason for running Power Up Punch plus 2 attacks is because I was very worried about the potential for Tablemon to bring a Calm Mind Rest Talk Slowbro. This is one of the few Swampert sets that can actually potentially beat that set. I can go for Power Up Punch on the switch to get to +1 attack, and if I do that, then Putt Punch into 2 Earthquakes automatically KOs a max physically defensive Slowbro. That's the idea behind the set. I didn't think I needed Water Stab because Tablemon doesn't actually have very many water weaknesses aside from his Zard Y, which has Sun, so what is that going to do? Ice Punch helps to hit his grass types, and Flygon, and then Earthquake is my strongest stab move that I can get. I'm also running Rain Dance in case I predicted cheeky Zard Y switching onto my Mega Swampert. That way I can stop him from clicking Solar Beam and outspeed him as well. Next up is Pinsir. I promised last week that Pinsir probably wasn't going to come anymore. Apparently I don't do a very good job of keeping my promises, because Pinsir is going to be my lead for this game. If he leads with Zard Y, I can just get off a Rock Slide and kill him easily if he doesn't predict the Scarf. And if he doesn't lead with that, I can get up Stealth Rocks on turn 1 and make the Zard Y's life very difficult. Choice Scarf also allows me to outspeed his Lycanroc and his Flygon, and if he happens to get up Webs, it still gives me enough speed to outpace Honchkrow or X-Cloud or any of his slow wall breakers. But we'll move on to the second half of the team. Zeraora is the next one I want to talk about, namely because it's my main switch into his Galvantula and his X-Cloud. It is running Assault Vest to better stomach their special attacks, and it's also running Throat Chop to potentially shut them up. It stops Galvantula from clicking Bug Buzz, it stops X-Cloud from clicking Boom Burst via its sound disabling properties. It's running Hidden Power Ice to hit Flygon and Tangle a bit harder, and beyond that, it's just Electric Stab all the time, every time. Moving on to Klefki, though. Zeraora and Klefki are the only 2 mons I've brought to all 4 of my MPL games so far, and there's a very key reason for that, no pun intended. Klefki, with dual screens, just really helps protect both my offense and my defense from certain attacks, especially because most teams that play me don't bring Defog very often, because my hazard setting options are allegedly terrible. Regardless, that's just going to allow Klefki to better protect my team with those dual screens. It's running Magnet Rise to avoid ground-type moves from his Lycanroc and his Flygon, and because this thing is meant to be the main switch into his physical attackers, which would be those 2 mons as well as the Honchkrow, it is going max physically defensive, and it's running Dazzlingly in order to hit Honchkrow and Flygon super effectively. And the last mon is Musharna. This was a set that was recommended to me by my good pals Azhar and Jay from the Hive, so credit goes to them for this idea. It's a Keyberry Calm Mind set. So the idea is that I set up Calm Minds on a lot of his special attackers. If he wants to go into a physical attacker to hit me, the first time I get hit by a physical attack, I activate Keyberry, I get +1 defense. Then I just Rest Talk, Calm Mind a few times, click Shadow Ball a bunch, and win. provided that the X-Cloud has been taken care of, because X-Cloud is his one ghost immunity. But I felt like the ghost typing of Shadow Ball allowed me to at least deal damage to Honchkrow, which I felt was more likely to come in X-Cloud anyway, as well as to deal more damage to his psychic types. But that is the team builder for week number 4. Looking at the 6 mons that Tablemon brought for this game, I was very surprised to see Lycanroc Dusk. I felt like it had the worst matchup of his 10 mons. I could see a compelling case for any of the other 9, but Lycanroc was a bit of a surprise to me. I guess he just felt very threatened by the prospect of Noivern and Pinsir. I don't know. Beyond that, the other observations, he brought Tangela alongside Charizard Y. There is a chance he might be running Chlorophyll on that, so gotta watch out for that. Also have to watch out for Galvantula Sticky Webs if he decides to set them up very early. But I still feel as though the Pinsir is a compelling lead, and that's what I'm going to start with in this game, as Tablemon begins with his Lycanroc Dusk. You know, the funny thing is that for the entire time that I saw the Lycanroc on Pinsir matchup, I didn't think for a second that he could Oko me, even though this Lycanroc carries Stone Edge, Pinsir's weak to Stone Edge, I'm not Focus Sash. This is kind of a dangerous situation. All I could think about was, I need to get my rocks up very early, and because I'm Scarf, there's no way he can outspeed me. It's a good thing that he wasn't actually Stone Edge on his Lycanroc. Instead, he just goes for Accelerock first. So while I do take a big chunk of damage, I don't actually die, and I still get up the Stealth Rocks, and I'm able to switch up my Pinsir on the next turn. Got kinda lucky there. If Tablemon had brought a more conventional Lycanroc set than the one he did, he might have just claimed a kill right here, because I wasn't really thinking that hard. But to be fair to myself, not that I need the fairness, Pinsir was definitely the most expendable mon on my team. I certainly could afford to sacrifice it more than my Politoed, but I'd go into it anyway in order to set up the rain for the first time. I figure he's just going to go for Accelerock again, but instead he's going to set up Stealth Rocks. Fair play on his end. If only because I don't bring hazard removal very often, but my Politoed is in on a Lycanroc, and predicting to switch out into his Slowbro or his Tangela, I'm actually going to attempt to Toxic him, but he reveals Taunt on the Lycanroc set, and this is when I realized that this is definitely a Sash lead set. There definitely was a chance of it when he went for Accelerock on the first turn and then set up his own rocks with the Lycanroc, but Taunt pretty much confirms it, and it pretty much also confirms that his last move is going to be Endeavor. So attempting to play around that, I am going to switch out into my Mega Swampert, knowing that Lycanroc can't really touch Swampert since it resists Accelerock, which is his only main way to move. And that power-up punch that I put on the Mega Swampert set is actually going to come in a fair bit handy here, because I can hit the Lycanroc pretty decently to break a potential Focus Sash, and his Endeavor isn't going to do max damage to me. And as a bonus, I also get a boost to my attack stat. But now that Lycanroc has been chipped a little bit, any of my moves is going to kill him, so I have to make a decision as to which mon I think is more likely to switch in if he decides to do it. And this is where things can get a bit crucial. I can go for Power-Up Punch to get a +2 attack if I want to. I could also potentially Ice Punch if I predict the Tangle to switch in, because I don't actually think 2 Power-Up Punches into an Ice Punch actually kills a max physically defensive Tangela. Or I can go for Earthquake if I anticipate the Slowbro. In my opinion though, Tangela is a way bigger threat to Mega Swampert specifically. So I'm just going to go for the Ice Punch here. I know it kills the Lycanroc anyway, and he does actually switch out into Tangela, takes almost 50%, and to top it off, he also gets frozen, which is bloody ridiculous. However, that freeze isn't going to matter for reasons we're going to get into later in the game. He's going to switch out of my second Ice Punch, I just went for it, presumably wanting to get some health back with his Regenerator ability. And he does switch out into his Slowbro, which takes pretty much nothing from the Ice Punch, but I still want to get off some damage on this, even though it is a Regenerator mod, so I am just going to click Earthquake. I know it's a 2-hit KO, I calced it specifically for that reason, and he actually does stay in. He doesn't have Grass Knot, which is fantastic for me. Instead, he just goes for Scald, does not get a burn, and I can just kill him off the next turn with yet another Earthquake. So big threat Slowbro is already gone, and that's really, really good for me. It's definitely the mon on Table's team that he can potentially be the most creative with, so I'm glad to see that I don't have to worry about what kind of set he might have brought. Even though I know Table was a relatively inexperienced Draft League player, it's still nice. Anyway, he's going to go into the Flygon. I could choose to sack Swampert here because it is at low health, but I decided that Swampert can still potentially get off a Rain Sweep late in the game if I keep it around, and Pinsir really isn't doing a whole ton for my team, especially considering that it only has one more switch in on Stealth Rocks, so I just select to sack it off here in order to preserve my other Pokemon. It got up Stealth Rocks, and that's all it really needed to do in the game. But in sacking Pinsir, I will be able to send it in my Politoed without fear of taking any damage. Nothing this Flygon can do can KO me in one hit. In fact, I don't even think he can 2-hit KO me with any of his attacks. But I am going to throw off the Scald anyway. Now that he's lost one of his Water Resist in his Slowbro, his best switch-in is going to be the Tangela, but Tangela doesn't really threaten me because its attacking stats aren't necessarily the best. However, switching into Tangela actually does come with another bit of a side effect. It allows him to thaw out from his freeze. I don't know if he intended to do this. If he did, it's amazing awareness on his part. Of course, it could have just been an accident, but it's good that the freeze didn't end up mattering too much. Next turn, I am going to scout out what he does, though, with the Protect. He ends up going for Leech Seed. Good to know that he has that move. I just got to be careful of him gaining a lot of HP back from that Leech Seed. But if that's his best move to hit me, then I am even less scared of the Tangela. So what I am just going to do is fire off yet another Scald, do some decent damage thanks to the rain and the fact that Tangela's special defense is quite a bit lower than its physical defense. I bring him down to about 5%, but he goes for the Leech Seed, and he's going to get at least a little chunk of that back, which is going to help him when he possibly decides to switch out here. I think his Tangela was in range of a Scald, so he elects to swap into his Galvantula, and I get a huge amount of damage off onto it after Rocks and with the Rain Boosted Scald. Galv is down to about the point that Tangela was in the previous turn. It will get a little bit back thanks to that Leech Seed, but it still dies to Rocks upon re-entry, so Tablemon can't afford to switch out yet. I, however, can afford to switch out. Because my Politoed I need to keep very healthy in order to check the Charizard Y. I don't want the seeds continually draining its health, and Zeraora is very safe here because it is Assault Vest. It can take pretty much any hit the Galvantula goes for, and if he happens to go for an Electro-type move, I will get back the HP that I lose from switching into Stealth Rocks. He does, however, just elect a Sticky Web. That's fine by me. Zeraora is in beforehand. It will be able to outspeed the Galvantula, and it will be able to kill it with a Hidden Power Ice. I chose to go for that move because if Tablemon thinks that I'm Scarf Blocked, he'll be less inclined to switch into his Tangela or his Flygon. I kind of wanted him to go into Zard Y on this turn just because the Assault Vest would allow me to take one Fire Blast even with the sun up. But instead he goes Tangela. I'm just going to try to Hidden Power Ice him, but he doubles into the Lycanroc in an attempt to get some extra health back with Regenerator. That's really okay though. I don't know if the Hidden Power Ice 2-hit KOs the Lycanroc, but I don't want to get Endeavored and knocked down to very, very low health, so what I'm going to do instead is just switch to Plasma Fist. I didn't want to risk Lycanroc living another HP Ice. I couldn't tell how much health it was at, and I was okay with giving him the information that I wasn't choiced, just to ensure that I KO'd the Lycanroc. With that, I'm now up 5 mons to 3, and Tablemon is very quickly running out of options to defeat my team. He has to go back into the Tangela because it's really the only mon that can take a hit from the Zeraora, and I am just going to elect to Volt Switch here to get a chunk of damage onto the Tangela, and I swap directly into my Klefki, knowing that this thing probably doesn't have a way to hit Klefki, and I can get up screens very easily on it. However, Tablemon does make a good play here. He's going to go for the knockoff to remove my item. This is something that he probably should have done a bit earlier when I was in with Politoed, but I lose my Light Play on Klefki. That's going to make my screens last fewer turns, and that is generally a bit annoying because my team would very much appreciate screens lasting longer, but I'm not crying over it or anything. My Klefki set can still technically do its job even without the Light Play, but I'd rather just switch it out here in order to preserve its health and go back into my Zeraora. I do lose the speed that I had originally from the Sticky Web, which is a bit annoying because that means that his Flygon and his Charizard Y will now move before my Zeraora, but against Tangela, the speed drop really isn't that big of a deal. I do manage to tank a Giga Drain very easily because of the Light Screen and the fact that I'm Assault Vest, but for now, I will just continue to HP Ice on the Tangela. It does more damage to it than any of my other attacks. It also catches Flygon if he tries to switch into it, and this Leech Seed isn't going to be able to kill my Zeraora before I kill his Tangela, so he either has to stay in with Tangela and just take it, or switch into Charizard Y, predicting me to continue to HP Ice. And he does the latter here, which I don't necessarily blame him for, but the fact is that by bringing in Charizard Y on Rocks, he's losing half of his health, and with the HP Ice damage, he's now at a point where he has to attack me or die upon re-entry. Unless his Flygon happens to have Defog, but considering he hasn't tried to do it yet and he's set up Sticky Webs, I don't think he's going to remove the webs that he basically sacked his Galvantula to put up. Regardless of whether or not he defogs, though, my Zeraora is within range of Stealth Rocks if it tries to re-enter the battlefield, so there's no reason for me to keep it around, and I will let it take the attack from Zard Y. In this case, he is going to Mega Evolve and Solar Beam, and I'm not going to be able to take that, but in Mega Evolving, he allows me to go into my Politoed and immediately reset his Sun with my Drizzle ability. So without its Sun, Charizard Y is definitely a lot weaker. It can't Solar Beam without going through a Charge Up turn, Fire Blast damage is weakened, so my Politoed is going to be able to beat down the Zard, and because Rocks are still up on his side of the field, he can't really switch out to put the Sun back up. So he has to just kind of stay in. He tries to Roost in order to gauge the damage on Politoed's Scald, but it's way too much for him to gain HP. In fact, he's actually going to lose a chunk of HP every single time I Scald. So instead, he will just try to get off as much damage as he can with the Fire Blast, but it just bounces off Politoed, and I will be able to KO him with the Scald. And with Zard Y down, Tablemon only has 2 mons left, his Flygon and his Tangela. Now, the Tangela doesn't really worry me in itself. The best thing he can do to any of my mons is Leech Seed and sap their health slowly. But if he gets a Leech Seed onto a mon and then switches into the Flygon to give it a little extra HP, then that could be a bit problematic. If that happens, I am going to have to probably switch around a bit in order to shake the seeds off of me, which is not always the best thing to do when you have Rocks up on your side of the field. Regardless of that, though, this turn I am free to just click Toxic, as I'm not seeded just yet, and he has to use a move in order to get the seeds onto me. And the good news is that the Toxic damage that he's going to take every turn will counteract the recovery he gets. This Tangela, on my watch, is not going to win the 1v1 against Politoed. And at some point, he's going to have to switch out into the Flygon, which he does directly on this turn. I didn't expect it, but I doubled into Klefki just so I wouldn't have to worry about the leech seeds anyway. And that's cool because he doesn't know my Klefki moveset. More specifically, that it actually takes on the Flygon very well. Because in spite of the fact that Klefki is weak to ground, I am running Magnet Rise, and that will allow it to avoid damage from any of his Flygon's potential ground type attacks. Whether he's running Earthquake, Earth Power, or heck, maybe even both. I don't judge. However, he doesn't actually use a ground type move yet. Instead, he clicks Dragon Dance, which was a pretty big surprise to me. I thought for sure his Flygon was choice locked in some way, and a Dragon Dance set never occurred to me until this turn. But I'm not going to panic over anything he does. Klefki is very good at being a safety net for my team. All I need to do is set up a Reflect, which pretty much removes the effects of Flygon's attack boost for the next 2 turns. From there, I can continually hit him with Dazzling Gleam, and it deals a ton of damage. But he goes for a 3rd Dragon Dance on that same turn. This guy has a lot of nerve setting up to +3/+3. Nonetheless, I know that I've done all I can do. I just need to hope that Klefki can survive one attack. Just one attack. The most effective move his Flygon could have for this situation would be Fire Punch, and so I prepare for my Klefki to have to take a big hit. Except he's not running Fire Punch. His best move to hit me with is Crunch. Well, that turn was a lot of hype with no payoff whatsoever. Fact is, though, even if he did put Fire Punch on his Flygon, I actually survived unless he snagged a critical hit, which just goes to show how useful Klefki is in a Draft League setting. Not that it really does a ton of damage, because usually it doesn't, but it puts its teammates in really good positions to win on its behalf. In this case, it helped by killing a Flygon that was at +3 attack and speed, and I consider that a job well done. But let's wrap this game up. Tablemon brings in the Tangela for the last time. He's Toxic Poison, he just hits me repeatedly with what I'm guessing is Hidden Power Fire. I think that's the only type that would actually hit Klefki super effectively in this situation. I knock him with a Dazzling Gleam, put up the light screen to survive the next Hidden Power, and then I can preserve Differential by sending in my Musharna. At this point, Tangela doesn't have a chance. I pop him with my Shadow Ball, so Musharna picks up its first kill of the season, and the Philadelphia Aegislash clinch a 4-0 victory over the Chelseadra Pokemon Club. And with that, I do want to wish a GG to Tablemon. He definitely kept me on my toes with some of his sets, but I'm glad my team was synergetic enough where it didn't really have to worry too much about what he brought. But I do kind of want to make a greater point about this game. This might be the first time on my channel where I've uploaded a Draft League win with a differential of at least 4. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've uploaded a game where I performed better, at least according to the final score. So that's progress, but it doesn't really mean anything. My goal in playing in these draft leagues is to win by any means necessary, and now that we're 2-2 and in the thick of the playoff race, we have a bit of momentum on our side. Even with that though, there are plenty of skeptics out there that still don't believe in us, and they're going to be one of my primary motivations towards prepping hard and playing hard. But I also want to give credit to a group of people who also motivate me to put in my best effort, the fans. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please leave a like or a comment on this video because I really appreciate it when you guys do that. I cannot emphasize that enough. Subscribe to my channel for more Draft League content in the future. Check out Tablemon's channel, as well as those of the other minor Pokemon League coaches in the description. And until I see you next time, take care.